All right. Today we got Coach Thomas Ford Jr., running backs coach at Oregon State University. Coach, thanks for being here.
I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, this has been a couple months in the works here, I think.
No, no doubt, no doubt. I know I set multiple alarms, make sure we were good to go, and I wasn't going to be running late. But I do appreciate you having me on the show, and excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, you didn't need to set all those alarms. I'm not an important person. If you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. It's not important. I'm just some country boy in Illinois, man. That's all I am. But coach, you're at Oregon State. It's your first year. How'd spring ball go? Are you guys currently in it, or did you guys wrap it up already?
No, we actually have a pretty unique schedule. We went for 2 weeks, kind of at the end of March, and then we actually had 2 weeks off. Guys had finals, and then we had spring break. So we just got back into it this past week. I think we are now 8 practices in. So
Hmm.
really kind of on the second half now, starting next week with our spring game coming up on April 20th.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. You get a couple breaks in between. That's usually schools just go straight through, right? Like they never stop. It's just
Yeah,
getting,
most places I've been, man, you go like 5 weeks straight, and I think this schedule is really unique, but obviously in a good way. I think it's given us a chance to get some guys healthy, right?
Mhm.
Had a couple guys kind of nicked up before the break, but shoot, you get 2 weeks off, you can get healthy, or maybe a guy that's returning from something that wasn't able to participate full go those first 2 weeks. Now they get kind of 4 weeks of rest to get back and really finish strong with our last 3 weeks in April.
Yeah, I think that's something else that's changed over time is more rest for people. Like when we all played sports, it was go, 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 go. And now you're seeing maybe like, you know what, guys, you're gonna take 3 days off, or you're gonna take this many
Right.
days off, or hey, practice, we're just be in helmets, we're not gonna be in full pads. Uh
Yep.
my new sprint training, like if they get to max miles per hour, I make them sit for 5 minutes before they do it again. Like it's
Sure.
just all kind of changed since we all played. Like I was just talking to our head coach today. There's a 7-on-7 tournament. We can't really coach it, but the kids can go compete. And we were talking about it, and we were like, kids don't even know what 2 days are anymore. Like that's not a thing.
No, it's not a thing.
No, like because in Illinois in high school you get 25 contact days in the summer, which is a lot. Like we have one of the most in the state and the United States, I think. And they want to get rid of it, which I was all for because we're battling travel baseball, we're battling
Right.
basketball, and I said they could change it to where we're only with the kids for 2 hours because there is no two a days. And he's like, they don't know what that is. And I'm like, man, they really don't, do they? He's like, no, they
No,
don't
it's like
know it.
it's completely a thing of the past, and it's almost like a relic, right? You say 2 a days and it's foreign, right? They're like, Coach, what's that?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember, shoot, I started college football in 2000, and in 2000 that was like the last year you could have as many practices as you wanted in days. And so I know we had like 3 or 4 days in training camp my freshman year, but we went literally in practice 3 times in
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
I mean, our pads weren't even freaking dried off to even go for the next one, man. So, I mean, it was a different era, but again, like you had alluded to, I think it's better, right? I
Yeah.
think the guys are able to recover better, and anytime you can recover better, right, you're going to just be, less prone for injury. I mean, in a sport like football, you're bound to get injured at some point in your career.
Right.
But as much as you can kind of prevent it, I think the better. And
Right.
so I do think that the schedule that we have now has led to a little bit better recovery time, and hopefully a few, especially fewer non-contact
Hmm.
injuries.
Right.
As we're trying to get away from overuse type injuries when we're actually practicing.
Right. Because when I think back to it, I'm like, man, I should have been hurt more. Like I didn't play high level college, but I walked on at Eastern. But like, I think about even just high school times, and you're like, man, because I have bad knees now, I have a bad back, I have this, and I'm like, it could have been from all the stuff, but that's all we knew, right? Like that,
Right.
you just knew. All right, we gotta have a 2.5 hour practice. You get like a 2.5 hour break, then you gotta go do it again. It might be 105 out, but it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
You're gonna go out
Yeah.
and do it, and
Yeah. And it's full pads both practices. I mean,
yeah,
that was the deal.
yeah, and you're going to do these dynamic warm-ups, which is basically trying to be conditioning. And looking back, you're like, that wasn't conditioning, that was just filling up time. Like it was just a waste of
Sure.
time. Now you
No
might,
doubt.
I believe in just going out there and going straight to your position group and just doing slow movements to get them ready now. But
Sure. Sure.
times have changed from all back in the day. Like Oklahoma drill and stuff. It's all gone. Like you can't do it
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I mean, you literally can't do that drill
No.
anymore in college football. So I do think that they've recognized some of the toughness drills. I mean, I know there's still old school coaches out there. We just need to do drills because we got to get tougher. But at the end of the day, being tougher is a very subjective thing,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But what I do know is you do enhance your risk of injury with a lot of the drills. Think about bull in the ring, bro. We used to do bull in the ring. They one dude might have to hit 5 or 6 guys on a
Right.
rep, and you didn't know where they were coming from.
Right. Uh, Toughness. I think it's more confidence. Like if you make a kid faster and they're doing things quicker and they're confident, I
Yep.
think that would build their toughness up, I guess, if they're confident. Like if you re retell them over and over, like you can do it. Look, you just did it. You just did it. And you get them faster and you get them stronger. Naturally, it will just build that. I think. It took
Oh,
me a
I
while.
agree.
Sorry, it took
Yeah,
me a
I
while
couldn't
to figure
agree
that
more.
out.
No, and again, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, like you said, we talk a lot here about at Oregon State is, we want to develop guys, right?
Right.
We want to really get guys here as like a ball of clay, and at the end they're a sculpted masterpiece, man. And so a lot of the way we do that is by building that confidence, right? And if they're confident in their assignments, they're confident in their technique, they'll play fast on game day,
Yeah.
and that's really what Coach Bray and our staff is all about here is just getting guys as confident as we can. So when we go hit the field Saturdays, they're just playing fast, right? They're
Right.
they're, they're going to go play with reckless abandon, fly around, make plays because again, they know that they've prepared. They know that their technique is dialed, and again, that confidence factor I think is always going to overwhelm any type of toughness drill that they used to put us through back in the day.
Yeah. The only time I think of toughness is like the weight room. Like you have to be able to go in.
Yes.
That's to me, that's the only time because it's you, the bar, the weight. Like that. Like
Yeah. They listen. That weight room's never lied.
no, no, it does not. Like and our kids and all over, it's hard to get them to come to our weight room because they want to go to the gym. Like they're like, well, I'm going to go to the gym.
Sure.
I'm going to go to X
Sure.
Sport. I'm going to go to LA Fitness. I'm going to go here. And we used to get mad about it. I still get mad about it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, if you're still lifting weight, I guess it's okay. But they're doing bodybuilding weights. Like, look at my biceps. Look at this. But that's the only time is like toughness. But yeah, that weight room don't lie. So when they tell us, oh, I lifted this much at X Sport or whatever, when they come to our max out day, I'm like, well, you just told me you squatted 325 and you're only doing 260. Like, wait a minute, you just told me. Well, I did it at the gym. I went low enough, and I'm like, you ain't going low enough, brother. Come on, man.
No, there's no possible way. That's a big discrepancy. And in my career, I've had the rare opportunity to really coach almost every level of football. I started at the D3 level.
Mhm.
I coached at the Division II level after that. And then I was actually a high school head coach for
Okay.
4 years before taking on a head coaching job at a Division II. And before I came to Oregon State, I was at Idaho. Before I was at Idaho, I was at University of Washington. So I've coached that D3, D2, FCS, Power Five. But the one thing that remains consistent, man, is what you said, right? That weight room doesn't lie. The weight room isn't going to sell you a dream,
No.
and the work you put in that weight room, and a lot of times too, right? It's the work you put in with your teammates,
You're right.
because like you just said, if you go to LA Fitness and you're lifting with, one of your buddies that maybe doesn't even play football, that's a lot different than when you're in there doing a max lift with 30 guys cheering you on.
Hmm. Right.
And so again, that weight room, I can't stress enough to those young players, be there, man. And it's not just about how much weight you lift. It's about, again, building those relationships, going through some hard stuff, looking at the guy next to you and going, man,
Yeah.
this is tough, but we
Yeah.
got through it together. And I think that you're always able to push through a little bit harder, man, when you got your boys around you.
Oh, yeah. That's why today the 7-on-7 thing was great because we couldn't really coach. We were not allowed, but we have to be there, but we can't really coach, which is real hard for you. You're kind of like wondering,
Sure.
but they're competing and then like when they're down we're watching like how are you responding to this like we scored the first touchdown in like 4 plays, the next team comes out and scores in one because we broke down in coverage, and then all of a sudden their heads down and we're like, guys, we're watching. I know it's only April, but we're watching. How are you going to respond? And we responded and we only lost by 2, but like you're watching it and it's just like, hey guys, now imagine if you did this all the time, like in the weight room and speed training. Like imagine like if you did all this together and went
Right.
through this. And but it's a different generation too, so we have to figure out how to say things and how to get them to look at it. And with the generation, they don't want to look bad either. That's the one thing I
Yeah,
can't stand. They're like, we don't want to look bad. It's going to end up on Twitter and blah blah. And I'm like, who cares? Like
right.
you'll play in front of hundreds or 1,000 people. You're going to look stupid, but you're worried about somebody putting something on Twitter or Instagram. Like, who cares? If they do, cool. Who really cares? Like
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, what championships has that won? You know what I mean?
I
Like, haven't seen many championships won in April. So,
oh, like my new I took over like our speed thing, and I don't know if you heard of like the feed the catch training that Coach
yeah,
Coach.
I have actually. Yep, absolutely.
He lives 10 minutes down the street from me up here. He
Oh,
coaches at a
wow.
school, and I researched it for like 2 or 3 years. I finally got our head coach to kind of get me to do it. So I started doing it. It's a lot of bouncing because to be an athlete, we got to be fast twitch fibers. You got to be able to bounce. You got to be able to move. So
Sure.
there's a fun one called a star jump. You get down and bend down, jump, put your arms and legs out. And I joked with like, guys, we're shining stars out here. Like I'm trying to be funny. They literally stopped and said, we look stupid. We don't want to do this because they were worried about looking like that. And I'm like, so I looked at a receiver and I said, when you jump up in the air like this to get a ball, it's the same thing that we're doing, but that doesn't look stupid. Well, blah, 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 blah. And I have an excuse. And I'm like, okay, guys, like we were in the field house by ourselves. So I'm like, who's gonna see you? Number one. Number two, part of my and like, who gives a shit? I was like, who
Yeah,
cares? So it's just
right.
kids doing that and they're afraid to be all eyes on them and look dumb and look stupid and make a mistake and fail and all that type of stuff. And I know we're all afraid to fail, but like I'd rather fail in sports than like I'm not doing that thumb on purpose. I don't know why Zoom does that. Um, but I'd rather fail in sports and look at it that way than fail at something else, because
No question.
like if you fail in a play, like in football, you've got 40 seconds before the next one. You got to make up for it then and there. Some mistakes in life you can't make up for. So I'd rather make up for it then and fix it in 40 seconds, you know?
Right.
And kids nowadays don't understand that. I don't think most
No,
of the
and
most of the time.
and I, and I think kind of along those lines, that's a lot of reason why some kids don't do track. They go,
Mhm.
well, I'm not going to run very fast, or, I'm not going to win any races. And it's like, okay, well, then don't run any races, but you can go train,
Yeah.
right? There's no reason
Yeah.
that if you are trying to get faster, that you're not doing everything you can. And, as you said you took over the strength conditioning stuff. It's like, you can't train to be fast unless you run fast,
Yeah.
right? Like you
Yeah.
got to go out there and run fast.
Yeah.
And that fear of looking stupid or that failure, I do think really holds guys back,
Yeah.
and I know that's something for us here at Oregon State in our recruiting process, right? We're all for the skill players and even the O-line, D-line guys, right? We're looking, are they doing track? Are they,
Mhm.
are they an explosive athlete? Here's the reality is like, if you're a fast track guy, yeah, you're going to run sub 11.
Mhm.
But you can run 11.3 and be a fast football guy. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a good time still, right? It might
Right.
not be winning you the state championship or getting you to the finals, but hey, man, that's going to help you on Friday night. I know that.
Yeah. Right. Uh, uh, like for the speed stuff, a big thing that was told me was post the times, like post it to where other players can see it, put it on
Yep.
social media because it's a competitive thing.
Yes.
I did that the first day because we did our miles per hour. I figured out how fast we were. And I posted it. I said, I don't care, guys. I'm going to post it. I want you to be competitive and say, okay, you ran 17 miles per hour. You want to be able to run 1920 by the time the season starts. Awesome. Cool. Some kids took it that way. Other kids stopped showing up because I think they were embarrassed because of how I posted their time. And I said, well, this is another thing you personally have to deal with, and I'll help you deal with it. But like, I was like, I try to be funny. I'm like, guys, I'm the big offensive lineman coach on the sideline, jump up and down doing crazy things. Do you really think I care what I look like to the people behind me? There's a reason why they're behind
Right.
us, you know?
That's exact right.
And
They ain't out there competing. There's a huge difference.
no, and if somebody puts a picture of me doing it on our social media or doing whatever, I could care less. I'm just like, oh, there I am. I don't care, guys. Like I said, I sound stupid. I'm from the country. I do not care. Like you have to stop caring if they say anything because if somebody says something, they're not on the football team. And if a football player says something to you, they're just joking with you. It's just
Right.
good locker room fun that we've all been a part of. So it's just
Sure.
different generation of trying to get over those other things that we all as coaches have had to adapt over. I think since I graduated high school in 2009, I would say 2011, 12, ever since that
Sure.
moment. Because
Sure.
I was the tail end. Like we had flip phones still when I was in high school. Flip phone
Yeah.
wasn't social media was MySpace and Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook was like
exactly.
Facebook was
Tom was
for,
still our number one friend and stuff.
oh yeah, like AOL Instant Messenger, MySpace, like it was still that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I then all of a sudden like 2011, 12, the smartphone thing, and I think that's kind of where it started. And I started coaching right out of high school too, and I'm just like I started to see it later on, and I'm like never thought anything of it. And then ever since COVID, it's just blown up because there was
Sure.
nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. There's literally nothing else to do.
So it's just another battle us coaches have to like we've become free therapists almost. We got our therapist license without even trying. It's um enough about that. You said you coach at a lot of different levels, which I was
Sure.
gonna ask you anyway. Um First, like what made you want to coach? Was it just to stay around the sport? Did you already know that? Was there somebody that got you influenced to do it? Or
I tell
yeah.
you what, so, originally going into college, I kind of knew I wanted to coach. I had a high school experience that wasn't great. My high school coach he's a really good guy, but I don't think he did a great job of like teaching us football.
Mhm.
And then I thought he was just brutal in terms of recruiting. Just didn't know what to do. And I just thought, man, I want to be a high school coach, and I'll teach history, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I kind of went into college thinking that way. I took I think one of my first class I ever stepped into was ancient Chinese civilization.
Oh wow.
And that was the day my history major dreams died. But I went into PE, and I found a lot of joy there. And when I actually got done playing college football, I still had a bug, to play. And my senior season kind of ended strangely. I had a season-ending injury, I had a thumb surgery that I had to get some pins put in there so they wouldn't let me cast it up and go. But my team also won the D3 national championship at Linfield. So, we had so much success. I just felt like I didn't want my career to end that way. So I ended up playing arena football for a few years. And then after my second year, my best friend was coaching at my alma mater there at Linfield out in Oregon. And he was like, hey, Tremaine, which was my running backs coach, hey, he's moving on. He's going to get another gig, and we really need a guy. Would you be interested? And I thought, yeah, let's see what college
Mhm.
football is about. And so I did that for a couple of years, and realized, hey, this is what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so after that, I took a GA job down at Southeastern Oklahoma State, which is Division II school. After that first year, my quarterbacks coach actually left, and so the head coach there was like, "Hey, finish your masters this summer, and I'm going to hire you." And so he ended up hiring me full time before the 2010 season. And so I coached receivers there and was the recruiting coordinator and special teams guy. And then after that, I took a job back in the Northwest. I really wanted to get back west, and I took a job at the University of Puget Sound, not the school that has a ton of historical success. I mean, we played them when I played at Linfield and coached against them, and we never lost to them. I don't think they've lost to them in over 25 years now.
Oh,
Um, but long story short, it was a great experience to coach on defense. I had
okay.
not coached on defense, and so I did that for a little while. I did that for a couple of years, and then actually took that job as a high school head coach at Stadium High School in Tacoma, Washington. For those of the people listening on the pod, man, check it out. It's an awesome stadium. It's where they filmed 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so it's like that. Yeah, I was like right in front
Yeah.
of this huge, it's called, what's it, Commencement Bay. And it's just an unbelievable campus. And so we were really terrible there for the first year. I think we were 0-10 or something. And they hadn't really had a winning season since 1993. Year two, we got a little better, won a few games. And then year three, we really turned it around and, made the postseason for the first time in school history, first winning season since 93, and did some good things. So we did kind of repeated some success the following year. And then I took a job as the head coach at Simon Fraser University, which is up in Vancouver, BC. It was the only school in the NCAA outside the US.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that program is no longer, but I was there in 2018, 2019, and we had limited success in terms of wins and losses, but a lot of wins in terms of turning the program around. Before I got there, they hadn't won a game in over 3 years. And we won a few games there and did some things that hadn't been done. But I got a really rare opportunity to go coach at the University of Washington as an analyst, kind of working with tight ends and fullbacks. So I hadn't coached in Division I football yet, and it was a great opportunity to go to a place that I really rooted for my entire life as a kid, being from Seattle. So I did that for a couple of years, and then got an opportunity to go be the special teams coordinator, running backs coach at Idaho. At Idaho in 2022, we had some good success, taking to the
Yep.
playoffs for the first time since going back to FCS. And then last year in 23, really moved the needle. I think we finished 4 or 5, depending on what poll you looked at, but did some really good things there. And then, got an opportunity with Coach Bray and his staff here at Oregon State. So, again, if there's coaches out there listening that have aspirations to be a FBS college football coach, take it from me. Sometimes it may take you a little bit, and the road might be windy. But if you want it bad enough and you're willing to sacrifice some things along the way, it is definitely possible. I played at a D3 and started coaching at a D3, and now have my own room, at the FBS level. So fired up about the opportunity here. I think we got a good chance to be successful. I know there's some things hanging over our head that we have no control over in terms of conference
Mm-hmm.
realignment, things like that. But we got 12 games on the schedule in 24 that we feel like we can win. And so if we go take care of business, I feel pretty good about being one of those 12 teams competing for a national title at the end.
I was going to say Oregon State before you got there has kind of turned it around, and now there's like a standard now of like competing and being good now. Like nothing against Oregon
Yes,
State, but just historically, there's been times where they're just
sure.
not that. And then I think over the
Yeah,
last few years, even before COVID, like,
sure.
oh, they're winning games they're not supposed to now. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a stadium reconstruction going on at
Yeah,
one
yep,
point,
yep,
and
yep.
you know, I slowly have become a fan. That's why I was excited to get you on. Like slowly over the years, because I'm a fan of college football, I'm a fan of coaches, and I just slowly kept my eye on Oregon State, and I kept going like, oh man, like look at that. I love the offense too. Like there's just the stuff we were watching, and I'm like slowly starting to like Oregon State. So when the conference realignment was happening, I was like, please come to the Big Ten so I can watch it more.
Right.
Because
Sure.
I'm in Illinois. I'm like, maybe I can get it on TV now because
Right.
you guys out on the West Coast, you might play at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm not staying up till
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night to watch this.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I know. And obviously there was some things that happened with the Pac-12 that, are questionable either way. But for us, we can't focus too hard on that because, I mean, when you look at the climate of college football, I think by 2025, it's all going to look different than it does today
Oh yeah,
anyway.
oh yeah.
I
It
mean,
might look
with
different tomorrow. You might wake up tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. How's the wind blowing, man? Because
Yeah.
they're going to change tomorrow too now.
Oh yeah, because I can't trust any article I read, but there was something like, oh,
No,
Oregon State's about to make the jump to the Big Ten. And I'm like, okay. But like
sure,
I'll see another article like, they're not going to follow Oregon over there and all
sure.
this. So I just same thing with the transfer portal stuff. Like I can't trust anything I see on ESPN and Fox Sports. And articles. I'd rather talk to the coaches and get the real. And that's why I love it. Cause I'm like, okay, I know what
Yeah,
really happens, you know.
yeah.
Because that's the other thing I feel bad for college football coaches, but people are like, oh, they make the money and they're earning the money. And I'm like, do you realize this transfer portal, what extra pressure this has become and the money and all this stuff? Because like if a guy leaves tomorrow, do you plug in a freshman or do you jump into the portal to see if you can get a guy? And then now you're recruiting.
Right.
And then instead of trying to convince an 18, 17-year-old, you're trying to convince maybe a 20, 21-year-old to come here.
Sure.
They look at
And the
you,
reasons are different, right? Like
right?
now that recruiting becomes very different for two reasons, right? Number one, like you said, kind of, do you replace a guy that you might have lost to the portal? Do you hope and pray that a freshman will be ready? Or do you go, hey, this other kid's played, you know, whatever it is,
Mhm.
248 snaps or whatnot, right? That kid also has proven that he can handle being away from home,
Right.
handle the school portion of it. So, there's a lot of programs out there that will weigh the risk reward. And a lot of times the risk reward is much, lower in terms of risk and higher versus, in terms of reward with a guy that can do it.
Right.
So I think we're a little unique in that respect that we still want to really develop high school guys. We feel
Mhm.
like we can get guys ready in some positions, right? I mean, I think running back is one of those positions. I think if a guy's talented enough, you can get him ready to play.
Right.
Uh, but at the same time, you're always going to have, hey, holes you got to fill with an older player. And so I always tell guys when they, especially high school recruits, when they ask me about the portal, I say, I think Oregon State handles it the way college football has always handled it.
Mhm.
You're going to need a couple transfers here and there, but we don't really want to make a living off of those guys.
Right.
Right? If we have to replace 22 guys every year with 22 transfers, that's probably not a recipe for success in Corvallis.
Right. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking for people with your type of values, the university's type of
Sure.
values. And so you also have to look at, is this the second time this kid's jumped into the portal? What's
Right.
if the reasons were trying to get closer to home and stuff like that, you go, okay, we can overlook that. But if it's they caused problems at this university, so they jumped in the portal, or they got into it with a coach, or they're not having the same values that you are, you're not going to waste time. But if you get a high school kid that
Exactly.
like this is
Yes.
going to fit, we'll get that, try to get that high school kid. Now, if he leaves in 2 years, we can't control it. Just
Right.
have to roll along with it. If a guy in the portal looks at you and say, well, so and so made $700,000 in name, image, and likeness, what am I going to make? And you're like, I don't know, whatever. Like that's up to you, man.
Sure.
That's up to our name, image, and likeness department. Like that's the whole thing. You guys had to create a whole department just for name, image, and likeness.
Sure.
Which I'm not saying they shouldn't make money. God bless them. I want every college athlete to make money. That's not the problem. It's the problem of, well, I'll come to your school if I know I can make this much money, and you can't promise it because
Right.
you have no control. And
Right.
that's a
Especially as an assistant coach, right? We're so removed from it. We're not the ones that are, in these meetings with the collective
right,
and the big money donors and things like that. What's really not our control. So normally when in our program, really when there's NIL questions, we just go, hey, this is going to be probably a Coach Bray question, right?
right,
He's the one that'll be able to answer that a lot better than I can. So, and again, for some programs that can be a red flag, right?
yeah, yeah,
I'm talking to a guy about developing him to be a Sunday guy, and he's talking about how much money I'm going to make next year, right? That we're probably not going to be a
yeah,
fit
yeah,
for that guy, because what's important to me as the running backs coach is guys that want to come here and develop, compete, understand that they can carve a role even if they're not a starter and
right,
still have a chance to play on Sunday,
right,
right? That might not always be the agenda for a guy that's a transfer or maybe a guy that's a real high profile high school recruit that is getting NIL opportunities that maybe I don't even know about, that
right,
maybe I don't even know exist,
yeah,
right? And so I think when we look at NIL and we look at the portal, it's always case by case.
hmm,
But for me as a position coach, I'm really looking for guys that want to keep the main thing the main thing, right? How am I
right,
going to develop as a young man? How am I going to develop into a football player? Because I believe in my ability as a coach to get a guy developed, and if they have the talent, they'll have a successful NFL career,
right,
right? And that's how I always look at it. We have a guy on our team right now that I feel like is going to be a high level NFL player, and I've talked to him at length about, hey, my job is to help you develop all the things that you're deficient in so that you don't just go to the league, you can go play in the league.
right,
Because as you know, right, it's two different things.
right,
A lot of guys can get drafted in the NFL or get picked up as a free agent and never play,
hmm,
right? So going to the NFL and playing in the NFL are definitely two different things.
right. Because I've talked to Coach Bart Miller. He's the O-line coach at U of I, and he was on here. He really showed frustration of he's adapted. Obviously, you have to adapt with what it is. But he's like,
Sure.
I remember when I used to be, because he's kind of like you, where he has sent guys to the league and he tries to sell that, like, hey, I've got offensive linemen playing in the NFL right now, and like he said, this kind of same thing you did. Like, I can maybe get you there, but I can also get you to play, right? Like, I understand what it takes for you to play. And he used to be able to sell that. Well, now he still kind of can sell that to kids, but sometimes that's not enough anymore of like
Right.
self, you know,
Sure.
and all that stuff. Like he still tries to build that trust up. And he said now it's kind of, for example, I got to go watch one of their spring practices right up close, which was awesome. There was this group, it's called like Rising Stars or something, where they're getting recruited. And they were there and they walked up to him and the old linemen are talking to him. They were handing him business cards. And after they walked away, I said, is that real? Like, do kids give you business cards now? And he goes, took a big sign. He goes, yep. He goes, this is the new wave of recruiting. And I said, when I was 17, I don't think I knew what a business card was.
Oh,
And he's like, now, Steve, I'll be honest with you. What do I do with half of these? You just kind of whatever. He goes, now this one that this kid gave me, he was like 6'7". He goes, now that kid I might hold on to, but like, and I said, no, 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 really, like you're punking me. This is real. He goes, oh, it's real. They'll hand you business cards now. And I'm like, wow. And he's like, recruiting has changed so dramatically. He still likes it. He still likes going to high schools. He likes talking to the kids. Um, but he's like, I have to, maybe this kid I can sell myself to. This kid I have to sell something else to now. Like I can't just
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
just sell myself. I can't sell the head coach and what their accomplishments were. I can't sell the conference anymore. Almost like
Nope.
he kind of can with the Big Ten because of how it's grown, but he's like, I still can't do it sometimes. It it,
Sure.
it depends on their agenda. He goes, or kids will talk to him nonstop and they'll try to be like friends with them. And he goes, hey, I'll be there for you, whatever you need, but we can't be friends right now. Like this is
Sure.
not a friendship. Like when you graduate, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. But like right, he goes, it's so dramatic one way or the other compared to what it was 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Even 5 years ago, coach, it's like you said, I mean, I've seen business cards with QR codes that get you to every
Ow.
piece of information that you could find on a kid.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and so again, the kids are getting more clever on how they're selling themselves. There's obviously more ways to try to sell yourself, but shoot, at the end of the day, man, like I tell any kid that I've ever recruited, your tape is going to be your best resume, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna at the end of the you can sell yourself or your trainer, your high school coach can try to sell me on you. I'm gonna go watch the film.
Yep.
Our coaches in our player personnel department will evaluate you, and at the end of the day, that's going to be the top factor in anyone's recruitment.
Oh
I
yeah.
know there's some hype stuff that gets put out there, but honestly, that's more for the kids,
Yeah.
right? That's
Right.
more for, oh man, this dude's getting hyped up, right? But nobody is watching that film and going, oh, that's a great hype video. Let's get this guy. They're going to go
Right.
back to his game film. They're going to go back to the highlights and then again investigate in game film and find out what kind of player they really are.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, so that part has been very interesting. Getting a business card with a QR code, or shoot, I've gotten guys that will send me like their resume. They'll like find me. I don't know how they find my address, but I'll get it in my box. It'll have like a postcard and then a little insert with all their, accolades and things like that. So, more power to the kids for trying to get themselves noticed, but in a lot of ways, man, it can be a little bit annoying,
Hmm.
especially when it's the business card, the kind of the additional stuff. I'm a little bit old school that way, man. Shoot me a DM on Twitter, right? If
Right.
you get my number, shoot me a text, right? I'm always going to look at your tape, but if the tape isn't good, I'll help you guide you any way I can, but the opportunity is going to be pretty limited. And I think that's something that a lot of college coaches aren't willing to do, willing to look at a kid's film, determine that they're not good enough and tell them
Hmm.
that.
Right.
And I think if I'm a kid, I'd probably much rather know that.
Right.
I've told multiple kids, hey man, I just don't think you're a fit. And at least they can go, I'm not going to be a fit for Oregon State, but maybe that helps them find their level, so to speak.
Right. Right.
Because I use this saying a lot, Steve. I say, you are who you are being recruited by, right? You can't
Right.
tell me you're a Power Five guy if you have only FCS offers. I mean, it just is what it is.
Right.
And I'm not saying that coaches are perfect in the evaluation process. Plenty of guys get missed.
Hmm.
Shoot, I took a guy at Idaho that was a very good player, and he developed over a couple years with me there as a true freshman, true sophomore, and he's moved on to a Power Five school. So I know that plenty of guys get missed, but shoot, for the most part, you are who you're getting recruited by.
Oh yeah. And the only way I'm not saying I have like Division 1 Power 5 kids whatsoever, but like I have a couple kids that flirt with Division 3, Division 2, maybe develop to an FCS one day.
Sure.
And I took it upon myself to help the head coach out. I run our Twitter and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my email on there so college coaches can talk to me instead of you because you got so much on your plate. So I have now
Sure.
taken it upon myself to do that. And one new thing for me was like the Twitter. And so I told kids, hey, if you want to play college football and you're reaching out to coaches, make sure you're saying the right things. Like I've had to help them out.
Yeah.
Don't say, hey, bro, what's up? Like or you know, and all that stuff. And so I've had a couple kids like, well, what do I say? Like, hello, Coach Ford. You know, I'm Steve Kaczewski. I'm a junior at Adams Trail High School. I have interest in playing college football, and I'm just reaching out. Like, if you're, could I send you my film and blah 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 blah. And then I told them, I was like, they're either not going to respond, or they're going to say we're full, or they're going to say yeah, sure. And if they respond with you're not a good fit here, you can't ghost them. You just respond with okay, I appreciate your time. You know, blah blah. And then like you said, you know, what kind of level player do you think I am? And they're going to tell you, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you come tell me, and then, okay, this is what they said. Reach out to another coach. If they say the same thing, start to see the trend. Like
Right.
maybe this is what you are. And don't be surprised. But then some of our kids get confused. Hey, they're offering me. And I might know the coach personally because of this podcast. I've talked to so many coaches. Like,
Sure.
and I'll reach out to them personally. Oh, or just offering him a walk on. So then I have to set the reality in of like, hey, they're not giving you a scholarship. It's a walk on. Now that nothing wrong with it. Just so you're aware, there some coaches do say these things. And so reality starts to set in right now of how recruiting works, what it looks like, these invites, and like, you know, now I haven't got they don't make business cards. I'm like, guys, if you make a business card, I'm gonna slap you upside the head. And I said, don't be doing that. I said, just send DMs, send emails, and that's it. Don't even
Yeah.
if they invite you to a camp and your parents can get you there, go. It'll be a good
Right.
experience.
Yeah.
But besides that, I said, guys, these guys don't want to see a 5 minute highlight film. They don't want the business cards. They don't want
Right.
this. And so I'm very fortunate that I know the inside. I could tell them like they don't want this stuff. And then on top of it, I'm not going to lie for you. And they're like, what do you mean?
Sure.
What do you mean? Well, hey, remember when you skipped my speed workout for the last week? I'm going to tell them if they talk to me. And,
Yeah.
and they're like, wait, what? You're going to say that? I'm like, yes, I am. Well, why? Because it's my name on the line now, guys. Like you don't understand.
Right.
It's me. If you recruit
Yes.
a kid for me and I told you, hey, this kid comes to everything, then you talk to the head coach and he goes, oh no, he's missed like 3 weeks. You're going to be like, well, Steve,
Bad luck.
this, you know,
Yeah, it's
like,
bad luck.
oh yeah, you know, and so I try to explain to the kids like we have to tell them the truth, the truth, the truth. Like this kid, you just have to be on all the time. This kid, you have to say this to. And sometimes they're going to say yes. Sometimes they're going to say, yeah, we don't want the problems. We don't want to. Oh, he doesn't show up to 6 a.m. lifts. How's he going to come to a 5 a.m. meeting? Like,
Right.
just not going to
Right.
happen.
And I know that's one thing that was really important to me when I had that kind of 4 year stint as a high school coach. Just having the background, I had coaching college before, and I just knew like I got to be honest with these guys. I want them to
Right.
come back. And you know, one of the best compliments I ever got, one of my buddies who's now at Washington State, but he was at Portland State at the time. He goes, "Man, T Ford, one thing I appreciate about you, man, is if you say a kid is 5'11", I'm gonna walk in the door, he's gonna be 5'11".
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. And sometimes I would undersell, right? Over deliver, right?
Right.
Tell him coach, I think he's 5'10"-ish. He
Oh, yeah.
walks in, he's 6 foot, right? Now the coach is excited,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Versus the other way around where it's like a huge letdown. And like you said, now your reputation is in question. Man, you know, Coach Ford, man, he's always hyping his guys and you know, they're just not as good as he ever says. You'd rather,
Right.
you know, be really honest and upfront, and at least the guys kind of know what to expect when they walk in the door in those, you know, contact and evaluation periods.
I think it happened last year, the year before. A coach is like, so Steve, this guy's at your school. He reached out to us. I was like, oh, cool. Is it says he's 6 foot, 185. And I said, well, that's news to me. Like that. And they're like, well, then how tall is he? And I was like, he can't be 6 foot. He's got to be 5'10". Well, is he 185? And I'm like, is it winter time and he's in boots and sweatpants? I think he's 160, you know, like, and
Sure.
they're like, oh, okay. And I said, now, if you want me to get him to 180, I can do it. But I said, as of right now, he's not that,
Right.
you
Right.
know. I always find that part funny. And the other part is I try to tell them, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is they want you to play multiple sports, guys. Like
Oh yeah.
they don't want you to just be just a football player.
Yep.
I tell the story to everybody because they get kind of big eyed. Last year, this kid would have been a junior. He was a 6'3", 185-pound quarterback, right? Like, cool. He put on a lot of muscle coming into the summer. He was 210 maybe. Like he got muscle. Decides not to play finish his senior and just focus on baseball. Because he's like, I have to go Division I in baseball, and decide not to play. And I tried to tell him, like, I want you to play college baseball. If that's what you want to do, God bless, I want that for you. But even baseball coaches would love for you to play another sport. Like, that's just what they want to do. And he ends up getting a Division II offer, takes. I'm like, cool, that's awesome. But you could have gotten that scholarship if you played football. Like,
No
I'm
doubt.
not trying to be mean about it. Some
Sure.
some kids are like, well, I'm just going to focus on basketball. I'm just going to focus on football. And I try to tell them, like, I've seen kids get recruited for football for watching a basketball game.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they've watched a
Yeah.
basketball game and they're like, look how hard he competes. Look how fast he gets back on defense. He's competing differently. We'll give this kid a chance. And so I told them, I've tried to tell these kids, be a 3-sport athlete, which is hard to find sometimes now. Like
Oh, it's almost impossible to find these days.
that
It really is.
I don't know when I grew up, that's what you did.
That's just kind of what you did. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's just what you did. You did something in the fall, you played football, and then you did something in the winter, and you went out there and ran track or played baseball, soccer, whatever, right? Something in the spring. And I know a lot of college coaches talk about that a lot, and so I don't want to, beat a dead horse about it, but it just shows the ability to be coached in a different way. It
Mhm.
shows different movement skills, and it shows you want to be a competitor, and I think when guys say, well, I'm just a football guy. So you're telling me that in a high school of, let's just say, 1,100 kids, that you're a good enough player to be a Division I player, but you're not good enough to be a varsity track athlete, a varsity wrestler, a
Yeah.
varsity basketball, baseball. You're telling me you can't be a varsity player in any other sport? Well, I cannot believe that you're a Division I athlete. I can't.
Right.
You're telling me you can't play another sport and compete at the varsity level in anything else?
Right.
That seems hard for me to believe that you could be a Power 5 running back.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know, because I was talking to head coach the other day. A part of it is we have some people that decide to even just go work. Like, they would rather go work
Sure.
and make money. And then we realize it's the parents saying that they're going to learn more about life if they go work right now and make money with them playing sports. And our argument always is, you have the rest of your life to work. If
Yes.
if the parents can make it work, or if you get a summer job, we'll work around the summer job, obviously, and we'll make it work. I feel like you'll learn more about stuff in sports than you would working in high school, because you're going to work 20 hours a week, if that, if
Right. Max. Yeah.
max. And so that kind of happened during COVID. During COVID, that's kind of where we saw the shift of, they'd rather go work and make money. The parents want them to go work and make money. And some had to, whether it was financial issues, we can't say anything about it. Some are just like, well, they'll learn to go do that. And I'm like, do you realize your kid's probably gonna call in sick most of the time? They're gonna learn how to call in sick. They're gonna realize what vacation time is. Like, you might as well. I told them this. My parents were not poor, but they told me, you're playing sports or working. It wasn't like
Yeah,
whatever.
that's how it was for me too, right? Like, if
Yeah.
my mom was like, "Hey, you're not going to suffer in school, so as long as you're playing sports and you have something to do, I don't need you to work."
Hmm.
And I think that's a pretty good trade-off, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. I was like, I'd rather go play sports and be around my friends than go work at a job and get yelled at by somebody besides a coach. Because at least the coach will show that they love you at some point in time. Like, somehow,
Yeah, your boss ain't showing you they love you at Costco. I'll tell you that right now.
no, they're not. And then I was like, I don't want to pay taxes yet. I don't want to see what taxes are. I don't want to know
Sure.
any of that. So that was the same way. I remember that he was like, I didn't play football till high school. He's like, okay, you're going to play sports or you're going to work. Like, we'll help you out any way we can. And I said, sports, not going to,
Yeah, no brainer.
besides summer jobs. He's like, now sometimes you can do stuff in the summer, not because you have more time.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll go mow grass. I'll go do whatever. But that's the other thing we're seeing, is kids would rather do one sport or go work. But there's no, we have a handful of kids doing 3 sports, and that's weird to just say a handful. It used to be
Gosh, I
everybody.
know. Yeah, it used to be everybody. Used to be
Um,
everybody. And hopefully, that we can get some type of shift in that thinking, because again, like you had alluded to, you can just learn so many more life traits through
mhm.
playing different sports
Oh yeah,
than you ever can working at, most of the, let's just be honest, right? If you're a teenage student, you're probably not having a job at a corporate office,
No,
right? You're most likely going to be working in some type of service industry, and
right.
there's high turnover. There's not a lot of leadership development, right? Like
No.
it kind of is what it is. And so I do feel like you can learn a lot better lessons about how to be a successful adult through sport than you ever could, working in the service industry as a youth.
And it's a game. Like you're playing a
Yeah.
game
Yeah. Playing a game.
and you're working with guys from different ethnicity. You're working with different
Yes.
people from different backgrounds. Like I know you could do that at a job maybe, but you won't know. Like you go to school with these people. Like that's when I walked onto college and I just saw the big different places, like from different people from different worlds, and you're working together. I'm like, this is awesome experience to be around people like coaching.
Yes.
Like you have to figure that out, and it's just that's an experience you can't learn anywhere else, especially at that age. Now, as you get older, as an adult, you have to do it, but as a kid, you're not going to understand that. Like I'd rather do it in sports where you have to learn that, overcome adversity, um, working together as a team. Because, like you said, some jobs they're not going to know your name. They don't care about you. They like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
um, I've kept on you for a long time. I really want to ask you this since you've bounced around different places.
Yeah.
Culture is the buzzword, so I don't like to use culture, but like when you walk into your room or you go somewhere else, what's the first type kind of things where you get those players or kids or maybe coaches you've never worked with to like buy into what you're bringing to the table?
I think a couple things really stand out to me. I think the number one thing, if anybody that's really ever been around me would say, is just I'm going to have energy. I'm going to bring positive energy to any room I walk into. I really do pride myself in being able to work with people from anywhere.
Right.
I've had awesome bosses. I've had mediocre ones. Haven't had too many really bad ones. But I've had, anywhere in between in terms of coworkers, right? I've
Right.
worked with some guys that are just not good, right? I've
Yep.
worked with some guys that are bad people,
Right.
even, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm never going to let anybody else's energy influence mine. So I
Right.
think that that's number one thing is I'm going to have great energy. And I think the second thing for me is probably just knowing that I care about the people I work with and the people that I work around. My players know that I truly care about them, right? They know that if they have an issue that has nothing to do with football, that they can at least come to me, and if I can't help them personally, I'll help them find someone that can. Because I know football has always been so good to me in so many different ways, but probably the number one way is just always knowing that there was someone that actually supported me, right? That actually
Right.
cared about my well-being beyond what I could do for them as a player. And so I've always wanted to be that way as a coach, man, just showing kids that I truly care, not just giving lip service, right? But just knowing like, hey, man, I care about you. Being able to, for example, notice when a guy is off, right?
Right.
Not treating him as though he's not a person, because again, everybody at some point in our industry, it becomes a business, right? But that business aspect to me, that will never overtake the personal aspect. I always want to help guys regardless of the situation. I know that's another thing with the transfer portal too, is some kids are being asked to go into the portal, right? And
Hmm.
I think for me, if I haven't had to do that a lot yet in my career, which is great, but there's going to be eventually a time I will.
Right.
And when that conversation happens, I just want that young man to know that I care about them.
Hmm.
And I'm only telling you this because I want you to be in a better place for you.
Right.
Even in recruiting, I tell that to guys a lot. Like, even if you don't choose Oregon State and I can help you, I want to help.
Right.
Even if this isn't the fit for you, maybe it's like, hey, coach, I don't necessarily want to go to Oregon State, but I'm thinking about these two schools. Do you know anything about these coaches? And I can be honest with them and tell them, hey, I don't got skin in the game, but this is my experience.
Right.
And so again, that positive energy and just caring about others, I think is something that anyone that's worked with me would definitely say, hey man, T Ford cares about people, man. He's a good dude.
Right. Right. Do you think you learned that type from coaching at the high school level, or was that just kind of something you always leaned towards or
But
thought of?
I think it's something that's always kind of been with me, but there's no question that that time at the high school level heightened that awareness, especially in recruiting. I just saw way too many coaches that would tell kids one thing and then act a completely different way. And I just never
Mhm.
wanted to be that. I think that was, so I had coached in college 5 for 7 years before that. And those 4 years at the high school level really helped solidify that for me. Like, hey, whenever if I ever get a chance to go coach in college again, the one thing I'm never going to do to a kid is lie to them.
Right.
Right? They could be pissed off because I don't think they're good,
Right.
right? Or
Right.
I'm not going to take them,
Right.
right? But they're not going to be mad at me for lying to them.
Right.
The worst thing that you can do, like in my opinion, like I don't offer a million kids,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm kind of one of those coaches that I don't really want to offer a kid if I'm not going to take them.
Right.
Because I know, and I get it, right? Everyone's philosophy is a little bit different. Some guys have to offer more people than others. But for me, it's like, hey, I'd rather, hey, let's offer 3 guys early, build relationships with those guys, continue to build with others. And then if those guys fall off and we don't get them, then you can offer 3 more guys, right? And
Right.
throughout that process, you're telling them this so
Right.
they don't see it as a surprise, right? Or man, coach didn't offer me until late. Well, coach also said he offered 3 other guys that he was waiting on. And I feel like if
Right.
they know that, right, they can be okay with that. They can go, that doesn't necessarily mean he likes them more, but for example, the 3 guys I've offered this year, I've seen them in person where some guys I
Hmm.
haven't.
Right.
And that may be the difference. And so again, that honesty piece is huge for me because again, I just never want a kid to be all salty with Coach Ford because he lied. That's just not something I'm about. They can be salty for whatever reason. That's fine.
Hmm.
I
Right.
don't need them to like me.
Right.
But I just never want anybody to accuse me of being someone that has really just lied, flat out lied.
Right.
And so that's sometimes a hard thing in coaching because there's never any absolutes.
Hmm.
But I think if you can give them the most updated information when it comes, then at least you feel like you've been upfront and you've been transparent. Transparency I know is a word that is a bit of a buzzword, but I think in our business, if you can be transparent, then at least everybody knows, right? You
Right.
you can never treat everybody the same,
Hmm.
but you can treat everybody fairly. And if you're transparent throughout that process, I feel like they can respect whatever that you tell them. They don't have to like it, but they can at least respect it.
Right. Right. And that's all we can do is the I'll say this. Some of my kids, I coach softball, basketball, football, and some of them, oh, Coach Steve's a hater.
Oh yeah. Oh
And,
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I'm
That
like,
coach is hating on me.
or,
Yep.
and I look, I'm go, no, I'm not a hater. I'm a truther. There's a difference. And you don't like the truth sometimes. And I said, I'm keeping it one.
Yeah.
I said, you guys want me to be 100 with you? I'm going to keep it 100. And I'll tell them the truth.
Right.
And they're like, now you're just hating or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, if you want to go play at the
Right.
next level, you're going to hear way worse things than what I'm telling
Oh yeah.
you.
No doubt. And that's another thing too with a lot of kids in high school is they don't realize that playing at a Division II school is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in Division II, and I've seen some of the best players I've ever seen at that
Right.
level of football.
Right.
And so you can be a really good player and maybe not necessarily a Division I player, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything. If,
No.
if your goal is to play in college and to get a good education and hopefully, your athletic experience enables you to do that for cheaper, well, then
Hmm.
go do it because
Right.
that is more than 99% of people get to do.
Right.
And millions of people would trade places with them in a heartbeat.
Oh, I said the same thing about Division III. They're like, well, it's Division III.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, I live in Naperville. I'm like, North Central is literally 10
Oh, yeah.
from
Go.
me.
I was going to say, go to a North Central practice. You
Well,
go tell me those guys can't play.
our head football coach played at North Central, and he could have probably played Division II, Division I FCS linebacker. He was just too short. So he tells guys like,
Sure.
guys, your height matters. This matters. I was just too short. He goes, I went to North Central. And they're like, oh, you just did Division III. And he turns around and he's like, all right, let's go to a practice. Like, you really want to see
Yeah.
it? Like, they could be
Yeah.
Division II right now if they wanted to. Like,
Absolutely. 100% they could.
their linemen are huge, their running backs are huge. And so it's just real funny when they say that. And we said, or we can drive up to the next state above us and go to Whitewater, Wisconsin Whitewater, and we'll
Yeah.
really show you
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
like. And I'm like, you guys just don't get it. And or like I had a coach from Harding on, and they're like, they just won the Division II national championship, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's Division II, and I'm like, we can go and you can see.
You guys want to go see these guys? Because we can.
Uh,
There's some dudes out there.
yeah, that's the other thing they don't get is there's hundreds of kids like you all over the place. And so like how are you going to stick out and be different? Like what makes you different than like I have a 6'5", 290-pound lineman that he was a freshman coming into that size and I got real excited, but he's that kid. You got to be on him to show up to stuff. If he doesn't show up, he's got a reason for it and blah 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 blah. But he wants to play college ball and I gave him the realest talk I ever gave him about college ball. And I said, "No offense to you." I said, I could drive to another high school 15 minutes away. There's somebody just like you there. So
Yeah.
like, how are you going to be
Yeah.
different?
What's different about you? Yeah.
Right. I said, if that kid goes to class, doesn't cause problems, shows up to the weight room, even if he's not getting stronger and faster and he's showing up to stuff, he's already above you. If the coach
Yeah.
doesn't have to get on him, I said, so how are you going to be different? Like, what makes you different than everybody else? And, some kids just goes right over their head. And
Absolutely.
they're like, what does Coach Steve know? He's this other thing. Well, you're a high school coach. Some kids have said that to me. Well, you're a high school coach. And I'm like, so?
Coach, some of the best coaches I know in football are coaching at the high school level today. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the other thing that I've learned about, being at, so many different levels. I've coached with really good coaches that are better than coaches at higher levels.
Hmm.
That during my time at different places, I've coached with a ton of guys that could go replace a number of coaches at the Division I level. Certainly from a schematic standpoint, a teaching standpoint, relationship based standpoint. So a lot of kids that think that they just don't know, right? Because the term always just a high school coach is pretty disrespectful in a lot of ways because again, some of the best coaches I know are coaching high school football right now.
Yep. I know tons of them. That could make the jump if they wanted to.
Absolutely. 100%. There's no question.
Uh, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Rochester, Illinois, Derek Leonard. He's won 9 of the last 12 state titles. He won 5 in a row at one point. And we all say this to each other as high school coaches, like, why does he not make the jump? Why is nobody going after him? And I think he just likes the high school,
Yeah,
and
sure.
no offense to anybody, he's one of the smartest offensive minds I've ever talked to in my life. And he's a high school
Yeah.
coach.
Oh
And,
yeah, I believe you 100%.
and that's just one example of the thousands and thousands of high schools. But yeah, they could. So when he said that to me, I just laughed. I'm like, okay, sure. Whatever. So then I said, see if I help you get recruited. Oh, come on, man. Don't be a hater. Like, don't be like that. Well, coach, I appreciate you being on here, taking your time. I
Yeah, it
appreciate you
was awesome,
being
man.
here.